Righty, well, welcome everybody. Lovely to see you all tonight. Thank you for joining us. Just to kick us off, I will start with our welcome to country. So in the spirit of reconciliation, Psychology Squared acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Just a reminder that this is being recorded, so you can watch it again. This free recording will be made available to others to watch at a later time, so Psychology Squared on the Psychology Squared website or YouTube. Therefore, we request no discussions of any real clients or children. And Claire and I were just saying too, so feel free to jump in whenever you like. Totally up to you whether you want camera on or off. You'll basically won't be in it unless you do speak up and ask a question, but you can keep your camera off in those instances. So please do feel free to jump out with any questions that you have throughout this, or pop things in the chat and we'll address it for you as well. Alrighty. And just in terms of our disclaimer, these NPE groups are no substitute to your own preparation and study. Following consultation and study of the board's curriculum and readings, these groups are designed to be discussion-based, so you will benefit most by contributing to the sessions. And for ethical reasons, our groups and this presentation are not an exam coaching session. Everything mentioned is current information and subject to change for future groups. Alrighty, just looking at our agenda quickly. So we'll do a bit of an introduction in a minute. We'll go through the NPE outline, some key things to know, and APRA, we'll have a bit of a chat about them, how we can help, a bit of a summary, additional resources, and then we'll have some questions at the end as well. We'll make a bit more time for that. But as I said, please do reach out at any time if you have a question. All right, so we're running this group tonight basically if you're new to this space, looking to sit the NPE, no matter how far into your journey you are, I'm sure when you've sort of looked into the NPE exam, you've probably seen the pretty extensive recommended reading list. I wouldn't be surprised if you thought, how the hell am I going to cover all of this content? There is so much in the curriculum. There's so many readings that they recommend, resources, and I totally understand that it's really difficult to know where to start in this journey. So basically, we're going to go through and address some of those challenges. So this is really just a starting point sort of session tonight. So there, again, really are no silly questions. We're just going to explore some of those challenges and discuss some potential solutions for you and see if we can assist you in any way. So just as an introduction to our team, my name's Jess. I'm a registered psychologist and peer facilitator here with Psychology Squared. Claire, she's joining us too tonight.
Yes,
in the
everybody.
background. She's also a registered psychologist and one of our peer facilitators. We've also got Amanda on the team, and then David, who's sort of the head of Psychology Squared here, registered psychologist and supervisor as well. So you might see our faces around, particularly if you do join any of the groups later on. So just quickly, the NPE, so the National Psychology Exam, it's something that's been developed by the Psychology Board of Australia. It's available, the curriculum, is available online and covers essential topics in psychology. And it's designed to assess your competency to practice psychology safely and effectively. And I think that's really key to remember. That this exam really, from the board's perspective, from APRA's perspective, is to ensure that any psychologists in Australia are competent and can practice psychology safely. So I guess just in terms of when you're going through practice questions, what we often say in our groups is, what does APRA want you to say here? What answer does APRA want you to sort of give here? That's a nice way of thinking about it. So in terms of the actual topic areas, the exam assesses 8 core competencies through the 4 exam curriculum domains. So that includes ethics, including applied ethical and professional reasoning, assessment, including methods and approaches, and that there's 6, I guess, key assessments that they select that you need to know sort of quite in-depth knowledge, where you have to sort of demonstrate your competency in sort of administering and scoring and interpreting. And then sort of there's, several
23.
Other
23 others. 23 others.
23 others, just 23 others. But just
ones.
that you need to be familiar with. So it's not that you need to know, 23 plus 6, all assessments inside and out, but there are 6 that you do need to know pretty well. There's also intervention, which includes intervention selection and implementation. That actually includes psychopharmacology as well. And communication, which includes sort of all different forms of communication and report writing skills as well. Any questions there from anyone so far? Going once, going twice, all good. Claire, have I missed anything there that you'd add?
I think your next screen, it takes the next step to
we go through a bit more detail next. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So look, here are some key things to know just in a little bit more detail here. So in terms of the exam questions themselves, they are all multiple choice questions. They will mostly be in the format of a vignette or a scenario style question. Some of them are quite wordy, some of them aren't. So you do really get quite a mixture. There's often a lead-in question and a set of 5 options, of which 1 is the correct answer and 4 are distractors. So you may do plenty of practice questions on this journey. I know one of the key resources that we'll mention later on has heaps of practice questions available, but they sort of do things like, is the answer A and B, or all of the above, things like that. The actual exam will not have options like that. You always choose 1 answer out of the multiple choice answers. It's designed to test the application of psychological knowledge to safe practice, as I mentioned before. In terms of the number of questions, there are 150 questions in the exam. All questions are of equal value and there are no deduction marks for any incorrect answers. And so you're encouraged to attempt all questions. A key thing as well that we like to mention is that when you are sitting the exam, there is an option to mark questions and flag them to come back to later. So just a nice peace of mind bit of knowledge there that, if you're really unsure about a question during the exam, you can flag it and come back to it later. That was a nice bit of advice. I think I only got the day before I sat the exam, and it was really helpful on the day.
I know I certainly used it, Jess.
Yes. In terms of so the sort of proportion of questions testing each domain of the curriculum, as 3 of the 4 domains are sort of assessed by the exam and incorporate a larger amount of content, the exam includes a greater number of questions on those 3 domains, being, as you can see there in the table, ethics, assessment, and intervention, and then communication has less questions in it because it basically significantly overlaps with all the other content in the first 3 domains. So that's sort of why, there's less questions in that particular domain. The duration of the exam is 3.5 hours or 210 minutes. Why anyone would put it like that, I don't know. But 3.5 hours, it's a long exam. It truly is. And you're required to allocate a total of 4 hours to complete sort of the registration process before the exam and any post-exam administrative activities as well. I guess just something to remember with the sheer time, the amount of time that this exam goes for, it's really tiring. So that's just something to think about in terms of planning, particularly on the day, if you're going to have, any breaks, how you work how you're going to work when your brain's pretty fatigued in the second half of the exam. And it is quite exhausting, I'm not going to lie. 3.5 hours, it's a big chunk of time. The pass grade is 70%. So the exam is pass or fail, and the board has applied a scale passing score of 70%. And then the cost is $450 to sit the exam. And I believe you can, if you fail, you can sit it again in the next round, like 3 months later. And I believe you can sit the exam a total of 3 times. Is that correct, Claire?
That's my understanding. If it's any more than
Yeah.
that, then you usually have to either do extra time, extra supervision, or get ARPA will give you some reason or something you've got to do to increase your time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Beautiful. Thank you, Claire. Jump on to the next one. Claire, did you want to chat about this one for us?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. So that link there is simply, if you just Google ARPA NPE, you'll come up with something that looks like this, this link. On this link, all these things exist. So it tells you the dates of the exams and the registration period, which is important to acknowledge as well for when you must register. There's a link to the exam portal. So when you register for the exam, you've also got to create a login for the portal. You then also make a decision if you're sitting at home or in a centre, and they've got information about how they're different. I think even David Lopez of Psych Squared's even done a blog on the difference there as well. There's a lot of FAQs that they've provided, which is great. There's a candidate manual and a guidelines to NPE. These are 2, along with the exam curriculum that we reference a lot in the group that we do. But those documents are there for you to work through as well. They have a recommended but not mandatory reading list, which will either cost you a lot of money or a lot of time. And some of those resources aren't easily available. For example, there are some behind a membership wall. I know Psych Squared, again, we've got some resources available, but they're not the paid ones. Then they've got a brief orientation. There's 4 sample questions they have. You do get 20 additional questions when you've registered, and you can sit that at any time. There's the exam failure policy. There's an information video, which doesn't have a lot in there, but there's something there for you. And then there's also some history of the exam. So that one page will give you a lot. It will look overwhelming because there's so many links and information and where do you go. So it's just about making time to get organised in this space so you understand the resources, and then take time to get organised with saving the PDFs or the Word versions, and then taking your time to work through them.
Beautiful. Thanks, Claire. Again, I might just throw it to anybody if they've got any questions at all as we go through. All sounding pretty straightforward for now. Beautiful. All right. So in terms of preparing for the exam, a few key tips that we've got, I suppose, is to develop a comprehensive study plan that's sort of targeted and includes timed milestones. Using your professional networks, workplaces, libraries, colleagues to source study materials. Setting adequate time aside for private reading and study. Seeking advice and assistance from your supervisors, seeking advice and support from your colleagues as well, attending workshops, training institutes, or continuing professional development CBD events, seeking appropriate structured and unstructured learning opportunities that focus on developing the core competencies assessed by the exam. So yeah, it really does help to have a plan. I know most people, I've had a few people ask, how much time should I allocate to studying? I think majority of people I've spoken to have given it at least like 3 or more months. Is that right, Claire?
Well, I think you and I have spoken about this before, about how our study plans are different. I was more probably 6 months plus.
Yeah.
That was my study style.
Yes, and if you join the groups, you'll definitely come to see that Claire and I studied very differently for the exam. So it really depends on the sort of studier you are. I think I gave myself sort of 2 to 3 solid months of like really having a plan and being quite structured in how I did it. And I was a very much do it in small chunks daily rather than big long sessions in big chunks. So again, we will go into it in a minute, but in fact we will. Let's just go to the next slide, Claire.
Right, let's do it, Jess.
About how we can help. Yes. So we basically, Psychology Squared offers a 10-week long program, because we understand that the reading list and the course details can really be a lot to take in. So, you can organize your study schedule week by week. You'll have a chance to connect with fellow learners, with similar challenges. You could ask any questions that you might have, and you can access our practical scenarios and questions. And it is just a fantastic opportunity to set yourself up for success and sort of give that learning journey some structure, because you will have people, and we'll go through exactly what those 10 weeks look like. But again, every session's recorded. There's a link to other NPE resources, and it is just a really handy way to set yourself up for a solid 10 weeks in the lead up to an exam. Is there any questions about any of that? Or Claire, would you add anything to that?
I think the next slide probably is one that I'll just go to from there.
Yeah.
Remember that I'll come back and pause this video later, but just to probably explain what that looks like from our perspective in the course, which you may also, if you're not going to do the course, it could also be your structure as well, where it's setting up like week one. You won't need information and orientation if you're doing it by yourself, but we go through that. It's a bit of grounding, it's a bit of forming the group, it's making sure we understand everyone's strengths, what the concerns they are, and then it's working through 2 nights of ethics, 2 nights of interventions. We've actually just made pharmacology now separate, so you can watch that anytime, and if you're not doing the group, you can purchase that recording separately. And then we do 4 hours of scenarios throughout the whole thing. And we do it sometimes multiple choice, sometimes discussion points. And I think that's really, most people, when they finish the scenario nights, say, I feel like it's helped consolidate my learning. So if you're, again, not doing the groups, making sure during your learning that you're doing checkpoints to see how your knowledge is going. But it's Jess, myself and Amanda, and we come every week prepared with content. We'll definitely ask questions every week. Challenging that space. If you have questions, where the people you get to ask, if we don't know, we just say, hey, we're going to flag that for next week, let's come back to it. But someone in the group usually has some skills in that area, so that's what makes it nice, is a good discussion on the topic. So yeah,
absolutely. And then we've also got some other things available for you to purchase. So there's that Kahoot quiz with 141 multiple choice questions. That's fantastic. We mentioned the psychopharmacology video. There's a sample, but there's the full video that goes for about 50 minutes. And then the free book finder for the NPE. What's that one, Claire? Can you tell everyone?
So that's what's like Squared. It's a resource that has a whole lot of links to the reading list items, where you can either purchase them from or where you can access them. There's journal articles that are for free. They've been made into that doc as well. So you can just get it any time off the website. It's under the NPE drop-down box. But they're all included in the group. And I know that we're still working on some more questions as well. So there'll be more that will be coming out in that space. That pharmacology one is also under NPE on the Site Squared website as well. And it's Jess and I, and there is a 15 minutes for free that you can access to see whether it's for you before buying. But again, if you're doing the groups, you don't need to buy them, they're included.
And then we've got also available a fantastic logbook, which is a sort of ready to go logbook Excel spreadsheet, whether you're doing 4+2 or 5+1, and it helps tally up all of your hours as you go. It helps you plan ahead. It helps you could basically fill out those 6 monthly reports of where you're at that you have to submit to AHPRA. It is such a fantastic tool. I've seen it and I just wish I had it that much earlier when I was doing my internship, because I hear such great things about it and I've had a bit of a play around with it. It is such a fantastic tool. there's also individual and group supervision with David, as we mentioned earlier. There's blogs and newsletters, clinician tools, task planner, ethical dilemmas across the lifespan, and that's all on the Psychology Squared website. So look, in terms of our summary tips, our keys are make a plan, find resources. There are a couple of resources that we refer to in the actual 10-week program group. So we'll go through that, and then we've got sort of, we're all looking at the same resources together as a group, and we kind of, do the readings for that week, get ourselves ready, and then we can have some really great in-depth discussions together based on those resources and the content. Set aside time to study depending on what your study style is. Consider time for the exam, and also really don't forget, this process is so stressful. It is a huge exam. There's a lot of content. There's a lot to go through. Please look after yourselves during your study, during the exam, and after the exam as well. It's a bit of an emotional roller coaster. I'm sure most people who've sat it probably agree with that. But look, do consider joining the 10-week program. It's just a great way to go along that journey with some peers who are in the same boat as you. Anything you'd add to that, Claire?
I think too, the website still has the early bird on it. So currently the early bird is $184, which is, I think, like they said, for 13 hours with a contact time plus the other resources as well. So that felt like a sell.
Oh, good.
Right.
All right. Look, well, please, if anyone has any questions, now's the time. You can also scan that QR code there.